And welcome back to Lantern Corps. Today's Lantern Corps video comes to us from Richard Cardigan, who asked the question, what is Mewtwo's Mewtwo's Lantern Corps? Now, we will be looking at Mewtwo from the first Pokemon movie, and not just, the beginning, but near the end of the movie where he ends up. Mewtwo is actually a pretty complex individual. We know Mewtwo's origin, so we don't really need to go into it. What we can immediately cross off the list, though, is we can cross off the Lantern Gold Lanterns because he was not happy his entire life. The Lantern Corps are the White Lanterns because he really wasn't trying to nurture life very well throughout that movie. Now, when you get into the later parts in the series, or later parts in the near the end of the movie, and then like the sequel that came after that, arguments could be made, but I would take life out of the equation. Death as well. Despite everything, and despite his destructive nature, I wouldn't qualify him for death. And avarice. He had a goal, and he wasn't like super greedy about it. He was just very single-minded and determined. We'll talk more about some of the other ones he doesn't qualify for, but let's get into some that he will qualify for. Right out the gates in front of his conception, I think Will has to be on the table. Overcoming great fear is the big requirement, and he had to overcome the fear of loss, that he lost a few people in his mindscape that he cared about very much. It also goes with his abilities as a psychic type Pokemon that he would have very high willpower. So Will would definitely be on the table, especially as we get near the end of the movie, and he's definitely turned over a bit more of a new leaf. Hope. I really didn't. I really wouldn't say Hope works. He did carry on Hope, and a lot of the Clone Mon put their faith in him, but I wouldn't really. Hope doesn't really work for Lantern Corps, or for Mewtwo, but. Yeah, but one that I think does work is fear. Fear is one. Ooh, let's move that up a little bit. Oop. Fear is one that is very much very much something in his wheel, especially when people saw what he could do, the amount of power he was displaying. So ultimately, he easily was an embodiment of fear in many words. Plus, he's a legendary Pokemon and powerful Pokemon. So I fear would have to be on the table. The other two Lantern Corps I don't think he qualifies for are, at least at the beginning and throughout the majority of the movie, are Love, because really, and Love's tricky because he clearly cared very much for his friends in his mindscape. I just don't think he is a Indigo Lantern. Sapphire Lantern. It's just not Love that seems to motivate him at all. I don't think. Even for the Mons he cares about, it's like I don't see that as the defining one. Then there's Compassion. I'll say Compassion for the end. Let's talk a little bit about the final one that he definitely would qualify for, is Rage. I think among the three that we have here, throughout the majority of the film up until the climax, Rage is his Lantern Corps. This Mon is angry, he is hellbent, and he will get his revenge. Rage perfectly encapsulates Mewtwo throughout the majority of the film. But when he turns over to New Leaf, sees the error of ways, and tries to making amends, especially near the end, Rage subsides. And if he didn't have a Rage Lantern Corps by the end of the original movie, I actually think Indigo, take the other two out of the equation for a second, Indigo isn't off the table because he gains a lot more compassion by the end of that movie. And even though we're only looking at the first movie, it's one of those things where if you look at kind of where he goes by the second special that he shows up in, he's clearly grown as an individual, and compassion might actually be a qualifier. But otherwise, if you don't include compassion on there, then I'd say Will is probably his most likely by the end of the movie. He starts as a Rage Lantern and ends as a Green Lantern. So those would be, in my opinion, the Lantern Corps options for Mewtwo. But that is just my opinion. What do you think? Do you think Mewtwo is definitely a green or red Lantern, or do you think there's something else he better qualifies for, in your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know why. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.